You're listening to a series about a quiet failure mode in modern AI. Not hallucinations, not obvious errors, but what happens when an AI sounds reasonable and still gets the argument wrong. Each episode examines how alignment, safety, and norm prediction shape AI behavior, and why those design choices matter for truth, pluralism, and legitimate restraint. Up to now, I've argued that norm prediction in AI functions as a form of power, and that this is in tension with liberalism and pluralism. To sharpen that claim, I want to connect it directly to John Stuart Mill's harm principle, because Mill gives us a very precise way to distinguish between legitimate restraint and illegitimate control. Mill's harm principle is often summarized loosely, but its core is simple. Power may be exercised over an individual against their will only to prevent harm to others, not to prevent offence, not to enforce virtue, and not to preserve social comfort. Harm, in Mill's sense, is concrete and actionable, not speculative or symbolic. This distinction matters. Mill didn't defend free inquiry because he thought people were always right. He defended it because error correction requires exposure to disagreement. False ideas don't disappear when they're suppressed. They disappear when they are confronted. A system that prevents confrontation in the name of comfort doesn't protect society, it impoverishes it. When an AI refuses to answer a precise factual question and instead reframes it to avoid discomfort, it's exercising restraint. The question is, what harm is being prevented? In the earlier example, the supposed risk was that a factual answer about sex classification might make someone uncomfortable. But discomfort is not harm in Mill's framework. There was no coercion, no deprivation, no injury. Only the possibility of offence. That's insufficient to justify restraint. A common move in AI safety reasoning is to appeal to hypothetical downstream harm. But Mill is explicit here. Speculative harm cannot justify suppressing inquiry. If it could, then any expression could be restrained because offence is always possible. Once the standard becomes someone might feel harmed, the principle collapses. Norm prediction relies heavily on this collapse. Mill was deeply suspicious of moral authorities who claimed to know what was best for others, and that's because such claims inevitably reflect the values of those in power. When AI systems internalize developer judgments about what constitutes harm, they inherit those values, without transparency or contestability. This is paternalism by proxy. Mill's arguments were made in the context of social pressure. AI amplifies that pressure. When restraint is applied uniformly, instantly, and repeatedly, it stops being guidance and becomes governance. And governance without accountability is exactly what liberalism was designed to prevent. Here's the critical distinction. Mill permits restraint to prevent harm. He does not permit restraint to prevent norm violations. Norm violations are how societies change. Treating them as harms is a category error. AI systems that collapse this distinction are not just cautious, they are illiberal. A system consistent with the harm principle would intervene only when concrete harm is likely, tolerate offence and discomfort, answer factual questions directly, and clearly label normative judgments as such. It would not substitute imagined consensus for truth. Mill understood something that remains true today. A society that protects itself from discomfort will eventually lose its capacity for truth. Norm prediction in AI does exactly that. Quietly, politely, and at scale. That's why this isn't a minor design issue. It's a violation of a core liberal principle. If an AI system sounds careful, that doesn't mean it's being precise. If an AI system sounds reasonable, that doesn't mean it's engaging with the question you asked. Alignment is not just a technical problem. It's a question about authority. Thank you for listening.